All praises to Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, Hashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. And in this lesson, I'm going to be going into some of the sociology of this society, man. And before I do it, I'm going to read what the definition of sociology is for those that might maybe not know what that is, or for those that might need a refresh on what it is, so that they can follow along with the things that I'm going to say within this video. So here it is. It says sociology is the scientific study of human society, social behavior, patterns, and structures, exploring how people organize, interact, and are shaped by culture, institutions, and inequalities, using empirical methods to understand social order and change from individual interactions, micro, to large systems, macro. It examines diverse topics like class, gender, religion, crime, globalization, aiming to develop knowledge about society and address social issues. Now, what this ultimately is basically saying is that sociology explains how one thing causes another thing, man. Right? One situation causes and results in another situation happening, man. An action causes a reaction, right? Now let's read a bit more. It says, what sociology studies social structures, how society is organized, including institutions, family, government, education, social behavior, patterns in human interaction, relationships, and activities. And one thing you can say with that, right, which I've considered many times, and it's this whole thing with how these women in this world talk about finances now regarding men. When over here in the UK anyway, there's a thing going on called a cost of living crisis. Now, when you just consider this in general, if you've got some sense, right, you have to consider this in the realm of being employed versus unemployed, right? There's a certain number of jobs that's available, right? And if the certain number of jobs that's available does not match the certain amount of people that want those jobs, right, to where there's actually more jobs than people to do them, or at least equal job numbers for people to do them, guess what you're going to have? Some people that are unemployed. Now, if you understand the whole thing between men and women, it makes more sense in a society to have women that are unemployed than to have men that are unemployed. Now, follow along with me, right? Because we all know that women prefer men that have got money. But when it comes to men, we don't care, right? So let's just use a hypothetical scenario right now, yeah, where let's say you've got 2 million men in a society, or let me use a million men in a society and a million women in a society, right? Which we all know there's more, or most people know that there's more women than men. But let's just say there's a million men, a million women, and a million children, boys and girls mixed in within that equal numbers. And then there's a million jobs available, right? So then if we deal in a society where everything's equal, there's going to be 500,000 men that have jobs and 500,000 women that have jobs. And then there's going to be 500,000 women that don't have a job and 500,000 men that don't have a job, right? But if we go based on the thing where the women are after men that have got money, well, then all the million women are going to want to deal with the 500,000 men, right? So then that means that every single man then is going to have at least maybe 2 women that are checking for him just based off him being financially stable. But then what women want to think is going to happen is that if they are successful in getting one of those men, that those women are going to start lusting after him. He's supposed to turn his face away and not want him. But they don't do that with them. They wouldn't be doing that with those 500,000 men, because they didn't really care, might have not really cared which one of those that it was that they got access to. And this is sociology. Like but women don't really consider these things. They just think, I want this, I want that, me, and I don't care what anyone has to do to get it. They don't even consider what has to be done for them to get the things that they will claim they want. They never even consider it, man. They don't consider the things that actually have to be done for them to get to the goal that they want to receive, man. And when you look at sociology, it shows this, man. Now, let's go into the sociology of people in prison, right? our main enemy, the Edomites, is the person that selects who does and does not go to prison. It's their laws right now that decide what's right or wrong in this world, right? It's them that are mainly the police officers. It's them that are mainly the lawyers. It's them that mainly decides. So if you want to say, oh, but so-called black people are in prison the most and 13, and let's just say that that was true. Well, if we as so-called black men were the ones that was in charge and we were governing the society, would it still be the same stats? Or would there maybe be a bit more Edomites that are getting put in prison because we're going to actually assess them and look at them like they're a criminal, whereas their own people are going to be more lenient and more merciful because the criminal looks like them? And this is, again, sociology, but people don't really consider these things. They just look at the world as it is now and try and forget all the things that took place in the past to get it there. But you can't do that if you're being a sincere person. Same thing with this whole DEI hire thing, as if there wasn't a time where Esau wasn't deliberately not hiring so-called black people that they knew could have did the job just as good or better for no other reason than because the person that they would have had to give the job to was black. And then they'd give the job to a person that was worse just because they were so-called white, as if Esau never did that. Did Esau do that? Yes, they did. Same thing with how Esau complains about immigration, right? But here's the thing, humans have got survival instincts. So let's just say, right, that your house is on fire. Yeah. And the only way to escape the fire was to run and go across the grass into your neighbor's front garden. Are you gonna just burn to death, or are you gonna run across the grass and get into your neighbor's front garden because that's the only place that there ain't no flames? Of course you're gonna do that. Right now, that might seem like a bit of a dumb analogy, but I'm going into it with using that to explain what's happened in this world. Esau's went around the world, right? Made it a wilderness, stole all kind of wealth from other people around the world, right? And made where he lives be the main, if not the only places that you're able to have some kind of stable life. Because where these people are in their own country, they can't have the kind of life that they want to have in their own country. So they have to go and look in Esau's country for it, man. Because Esau stole from there. It's not just because they want to travel all the way across the other side of the world to be around Esau and have to deal with all this racism and all this hatred. It's because their survival instinct is kicking in and it's making them go over to other places. Now, some of you Edomites want to claim that you're Christian, right? Well, let's use a situation in the Bible. In the Bible, right? In the Bible, Joseph was sent through the Holy Spirit of the Lord into Egypt, right? Because in the land of Canaan, where the Israelites dwelt, there was a famine, meaning that the crops weren't growing there. And the Israelites said, okay, go over to Egypt and try and get some grain and stuff like that from there. And then they did, but then eventually they was like, you know what? We may as well just live in Egypt. And that's what they did. They lived in Egypt for a time because their survival instinct was making them realize it's better to live somewhere where we're able to live there rather than in our land right now because it's going through a famine. But the reason why it went through a famine is because the Lord Yahweh made it go through a famine to get the Israelites over to there, because he told Abraham, their forefather, that they was going to dwell in a land that's not theirs. But when you read the Bible, it breaks these things down, man. And it was told you're going to live there. Now the Israelites was also told you're going to live in Babylon as well. But when you're over there, don't start following after their ways. But the Israelites was told that they was going to go into captivity and they was going to live over there. But Esau tries to think he can destroy everyone's country, right? And then make only his country have everything good in there. And then start complaining about why people are over there. But he wouldn't ever do that though. Every single time when he thinks he can go over to another country, it's all right for him to go over there though, isn't it? He ain't just going to ride out the coattails of his country if he's got the ability to move somewhere else. I've came across plenty of Edomites in my lifetime that might, over in the UK, not even have that much of good of a life. And it was just doing a normal job, but they're able to save up their money and then go to some next place like Bulgaria or something like that, some next country, wherever it may be, and buy a big up house in that next country and never come back to the UK ever again. Just stay out there. I've seen that Edomites do that all the time. They always be doing that, having their holiday home and all this stuff in the next countries. But then they've got the nerve over in here and in other places in the so-called West to complain that people are going to their country as if they're not the reason why the people are moving. It's because of you that they're moving. If you never had nothing to do with it, then you maybe can complain. But we know that you had something to do with it. You're always in everyone else's business, sticking your nose in where it's not wanted. So don't complain about people coming over to your country as if you don't go over to their country. As if every chance you get, you don't go and adventure yourselves over to there, man. And this is when people are trying to think about they're going to be rulers in the future, these are the kind of things that you consider. These are the kind of things you're supposed to consider when you think about this stuff, man. Right now, it says here social inequality, the causes and consequences of differences in status, wealth, and power, class, race, gender, culture, beliefs, values, norms, and everyday life. Now, back with the scenario that I said about the people that might not be employed, when you consider that the men, like the million men, the million women, and there's only a million jobs available, and half go to the women and half go to the men. Well, humans are still not gonna die. They're still not gonna starve out, right? So they're gonna still need to do things to feed themselves. So let's say then you decided, okay, we ain't helping none of you people that ain't got nothing, no wealth, right? Well, that's gonna make the people that do have the jobs always continually be fretting, because not every single job might be a high skilled job. So they're always going to be continually fretting that their job's on the line. Because if they don't want to do their job to a certain degree, there'll always be somebody else to come along and do it. And because there might always be somebody else to come along and do it, they can continually keep lowering the wage and be like, okay, you pay this guy, you pay this guy 20, I'll do it for 15. Then that guy that does it for, okay, you pay this guy 15, I'll do it for 10. Okay, then that guy, okay, you pay this guy 10, I'll do it for 9. And that's why one of the reasons why these people complain about immigration. But here's the thing, if you didn't destroy these people's countries, they'll be doing the same labor maybe in their own land and building up that particular industry in their own land. But you don't want to consider that because you're evil and wicked, right? And an evil and wicked person doesn't want to talk about the things that are true. They want to just talk about now and be like, oh, how did this happen? No, you can't do that. You have to be sincere and you have to be honest and you have to tell the truth about all the things that went down in order to make it like this, man. Like people talking about some black people don't like to listen to what so-called white people are saying. They always got a problem with authority when it comes to so-called white people. Well, why is that? Because in the past, so-called white people used to represent oppression to us, man, and would always be trying to get us to do things and would be treating us unfairly. So now, when we see them doing that again, it might trigger us and make us feel a certain kind of way, man. If somebody asked us, do we live in this area and we know we live in there, we're going to be like, who are you? You ain't no police officer. You ain't nobody. Why are you asking me this for? Do you live in the area? Maybe I should ask you that question. Do you live here? But they think that they can just have it rigged and have it the way that they want, but no. But then at the same time, when a small hat does something, they'll say, oh, but people have got a right to defend themselves. But when the hell in this world has anybody ever said that about us? About that we've got the right to defend ourselves. They always try and make it like we ain't got the right to do nothing. And we're supposed to just shut up and accept all the BS that people do to us, man. And we don't have to do that, man. We don't have to. Now, we ain't going to get carnal. But when Yahweh Shai comes back, it's game over for this whole world, man. There ain't going to be no more of us having to deal with you in that kind of way anymore, man. And all the disrespect that you people gave us, you're gonna have to deal with it. You're gonna have to get repaid back for that wickedness that you did to us, man. It says social change and problems, responses to challenges like crime, poverty, and shifting society. Now let's go talking about. Here's one I can talk about when it comes to sociology, right? And let me just get my thoughts together, man. 1 second. Right, okay, here's one. When it comes to the alphabet and rainbowing thing, right? They made that legal, right? They made it legal to be an alphabet and a rainbow, and that a man can have a husband and a woman can have a wife. They made it legal, right? They never said it's illegal to do it. They made it legal. Now, just by them making it legal does not necessarily make an excuse for the people that decided to do the activity. But the point is, they picked a side. They said they basically was like, there's nothing wrong with it. But when it comes to a man having multiple wives, they've said that's illegal. They didn't say, you know what, it's legal for a man to have multiple wives. And then if a man decides to do it, okay, leave him alone. And if a woman's down to be a second or third wife, leave her alone. She ain't did nothing wrong. But when it comes to the alphabet and rainbowing, they picked a side. They didn't say it's illegal. They said it's legal, and then left it open to people to whether they want to do it or not. But they didn't. They haven't did that with such a thing as a man having multiple wives. Why is that? Because they know that it would have a positive effect on the earth, right? It would have a positive effect. It would actually make for men to start building up their own thing, right? A man having 10 wives and them all working for whatever his ideas are is a hell of a lot of a difference than 10 single women all building up some next man's country, man. Because all these women are still building up for a man anyway. They're building up for the Esau and the elites. That's what they're still doing. Right now, there's many other things when it comes to sociology. I already mentioned a thing in regards to the women, right? For example, women have been arrogant in this world towards men, right? And then now they're wondering why there's some pushback and why some men don't like them. And even the men that say, oh, I'm not going to hate women because of these things, I can understand that. I can get down with that because we're not faggots, right? We're not alphabets and rainbows. But at the same time, you still know that there's certain women that are still proud. All you people that say that, everyone understands this. And if we're about this, if we're about the scriptures, we can never try and make out like the women thing is not a big deal because there's prophecies concerning them. And there's prophecies that are going to show that when women are starting to get talked about and starting to be humbled in a certain degree, that we're closer to getting on chariots if we're destined for that. Right? But people don't really look at the sociology of this world. They try and make out like everything's just happening randomly and that we don't know where it came from. I can't perceive how this happened to be. Oh, really? You can't think. Like even the hatred that we receive as so-called black men and the reason why we might be walking around with anger and stuff like that, right? People be talking all this black fatigue, right? But what is the reason why we act like how we act? Did Esau have anything to do with this? Does the so-called white race have anything to do with the distraught state of a lot of these so-called black people that we see running around? Do they have anything to do with it, or is it just random? And that's where it starts getting hectic, because when so-called white people start blaming the society, nobody says, oh, you're blaming other people for your problems. But whenever so-called black people used to complain and cry about their situation, oh, you just ain't working hard enough, you're just dumb, you're just lazy. But then when they want to complain, it's not because they're dumb and lazy. And then that's when it starts to be revealed that you're a hypocrite and that you're a demon and that you want a rigged game where you can complain and blame people for your problems. But we can't complain. Here it is, we're blaming the elites and people that are billionaires and trillionaires for the reasons why some of the things happening in our lives. But you're blaming people that make less money than you. You're blaming people that are making average salaries, if that, and trying to blame them for your problems. You're blaming a so-called black man having a problem with another so-called black man and calling that black fatigue. What you got to be tired about? They ain't even did nothing to you. So why are you fatigued for? They ain't even did nothing to you. So what you tired about? What did they do to you? Did they touch you and harm you in any kind of way? No. That's an in-house thing. So what's that got to do with you? Whereas you Edomites in-house things require for our people sometimes in this world to be involved in world wars. And then it's mad when a so-called black man does something, right? Some little fight or something like that. People are saying, oh, he's violent. But there's literally world wars going on right now in regard to so-called white people. And y'all, for some reason, they ain't viewed as being violent, man. I don't get it. I don't get how they cannot be getting viewed as violent when they clearly are. Like, clearly. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. They're clearly violent people, man. The most violent people on the earth. Let's read some other things, man. It says key concepts and approaches. Micro sociology focuses on small scale interactions, conversation, for example. Macro sociology focuses on large scale systems, economies, global politics, intersectionality, how different social categories, race, class, gender, overlap and interact, agency and structure, the balance between individual choice and societal constraints. And that can cover the rigged game of this world where They try and keep certain people away from having things, man, but then want to complain that they don't have it. Esau wants to try and complain about Jake not having certain things, but then also at the same time they'll say that everyone can get it in this world. But then when they see Jake with it, I saw a video of some Edomite hating on an Israelite woman, right? When they see you with it, then they're questioning how you're able to get it, but they ain't. It's either a fair society or it's not one. Because when we used to complain that we didn't have things, they'd say everyone can get it though. Who's stopping you from being able to have it? And then when we have it, now they complain and say, oh, why are you able to get it and I'm not? But if it's really a fair society, it shouldn't be no surprise if an Israelite man has a good job or a better job than an Edomite. It shouldn't be no surprise if an Israelite man's got a nice car. It shouldn't be a surprise if an Israelite woman is able to put 500,000 down on a nice house in a bid to buy a house. And then why the hell do you know that anyway? Why the hell are you watching up her finances like that anyway, man? But then you don't want your finances being watched, though, do you? And that's the thing with this world, man. It's rigged against the children of Israel, man. These people hate our guts, man. And if they was to tell the truth, they want us to curl up and be. Well, the scripture speaks about it, man. They say unto our souls, lie down thy body like the ground, so that we may go over. They want us to be the catalyst for their success, rather than for us to be the catalyst of our own success, man. They want us to work 70 hours a week, right? So that they can buy a house. But then if we work 70 hours a week so that we can buy a house, oh, the game's rigged. It's a rigged situation. If our hard labor that we put in allows us to have something, but if we work exactly the same as them, they don't want us to be able to get exactly the same things. They want it rigged. They want a rigged game, man. And when you look at the sociology, you understand these kind of things, man. And all you women out there, you better really, right? And I have to mention y'all better really start considering the sociology as well, man, because back to the analogy of the million men, the million women, and half each, so 500,000 each, they get all these jobs and all of that, right? Well, then the 500,000 women that have got now been given money, let's say, if that money that they was all given was enough to take care of a family, that's basically wasted on them because they ain't going to use it to take care of a family. Whereas if all those million men were given all of those jobs, it would have made more sense for all those million men to have all them jobs because all of the women would still get access to the money if every single man had one woman, and then the children as well would get fed off of that man's money. And what we're starting to see in this world is that women are complaining about finances in this world, not even because not even because men are saying, pay my bills. No, these are single women complaining about having to pay their own bills. Like, that's actually absolutely ridiculous. These single women that are claiming they don't even want a man, and they're complaining about having to pay for their own bills. But then if they're single and don't even live with a man, who should be having to pay for them then? I really would like to know who they're expecting to have to pay for them. If they're single and live alone, right, they don't have a man, who should be having to pay for them? And that's an extreme level of entitlement, man. But then there's no thought to the men that might be unemployed, right, that don't have the finances to what those men might be complaining about. These women will just say to them, you ain't working hard enough and you ain't this and you ain't that, as if there's an unlimited amount of jobs going around. But then let's get even real and let's get even more serious about these kind of things. If you have a society, back to this scenario again with the 500,000 men, if you have 500,000 men that don't have no way to sustain themselves through jobs because they ain't enough, then what could you end up seeing? A criminal underworld, right? You could end up seeing crime increase. Or you could end up, you could end up seeing crime increase. Or you could end up seeing these men rebel against the society and be like, you know what, this society is corrupt and is not allowing me a fair shake. If it's genuine that they can say that, right? Because there is certain time where you can genuinely complain. The way how these Edomites are complaining, though, is not genuine. They just want a rigged game where they think they deserve something just because they're a so-called white person. If our complaints that we used to make as so-called black men were way more sincere and realistic complaints than what Esau's making. Because Esau never had none of these complaints when I never could see it when it was us that was complaining. They always thought it's because we're lazy bums and they just thought, oh, it's natural for you not to have these things to sustain yourself, but it's unnatural for me to have it. That's how they try to play it, man. But now they're starting to realize, because it's them, that, oh, people can affect you. Oh, yeah, somebody else can affect whether you have or have not. But they never used to say it with us. Isn't it fascinating how quickly the tables turn, man? And the same way how all you people in this world right now are racist towards so-called black people, you really think these people are going to be brave to be saying anything like that when we're in power? You really think they're going to be saying that? All these women right now that are from all these other different nations that pretend like they're not attracted to so-called black men, right? They're gonna throw their men of their nation under the bus to try and get with Israelite men in the time to come, and it's gonna be revealed that they were just fronting. They were pretending not to like the Israelite man, because we're the most attractive men in the world. No homes, you know what I mean? We're the most attractive ones, man. We are, just naturally we are. Now people can, again, attractiveness is subjective, but we are, man. And that's why people be trying to copy us, even though supposedly we're the lowest of the low. People be trying to copy how we do things. Even there's a new trend where you have these Edomites being called broccoli heads and all that with their hairstyle. And when you look at the hairstyle that they're trying to have, they're trying to copy a curly haired so-called black man's hairstyle, man. They're trying to copy the kind of hairstyle that a so-called black man would have. From the tribe of Judah that lives in America, Babylon the Great, they be trying to copy that particular hairstyle, man. So let's not play games in front, but I'm going to end the video there, man. I just wanted to talk about a bit of the sociology of this world and how one thing affects another, man. Shalom.